Welcome back to Full Timeout, your favorite sports podcast hosted by your boy AJ2K. Today is a special episode. Very excited about this episode because this episode will be as current as it could possibly be. And that's what I love about it. Seeing as though this episode is being recorded on a Monday, obviously the people on YouTube, they see it right away when it's posted, which is normally right after the video is recorded. But for the people who are listening over the radio, that is the block105.com, you obviously don't hear the content until Wednesday. And so, with me talking about the NBA playoffs, more specifically the NBA Finals, the next NBA Finals game is on Wednesday. And that game comes on right after this comes over the airways from 6 to 7. So I'm very excited about this episode. This is the first episode I feel like that will be as current as possible. Other episodes are very current as well, but this one timing wise just fits perfectly with what's going on in basketball right now. Again, I picked this time slot mainly for football because it's going to fit perfectly. You guys will hear content that'll come out on Wednesdays, and I'll be able to predict what's going to happen that Thursday, that Sunday, the upcoming Monday, and then I'll be able to recap the things that happened the weekend before. But for basketball, I can be a little off. And so I'm happy with this episode being as current as humanly possible. I'll be able to give predictions on the series going forward and talk a bit about what's happened so far in this series. And so, without further ado, man, I'm jumping right into it. Again, for the people who do not know, you can find all my socials at AJ2K. For the people that's watching on YouTube, you see that at the bottom of the screen. A as in apple, J as in juice, A as in alphabet, E as in eat, the number 2, the letter K as in kite. That is for Twitter. That is for TikTok. That is for Instagram. You can find it all there. Even if you go on, especially if you go on Twitter and Instagram, I have my link tree attached in the bios. You can click on the link tree. You can find everything you're looking for, whether you want to listen to it over radio, whether you want to watch it on YouTube, whether you want to watch other content that I put out, YouTube shorts, just regular timeout instead of full timeout. It is all there. All the links are there. And so that's where you can find pretty much all my content. I would bring up the YouTube channel again, but for some reason, I just figured out that, when you type in the proper YouTube channel, it doesn't come up. YouTube got some explaining to do, but it's all good because, again, my links are all throughout my bios, all on social media. And so if you're looking for me, that's where you can find me. Again, that is AJ2K, A as in apple, J as in juice, A as in alphabet, E as in eat, the number 2 and the letter K. Without further ado, let's jump right into this playoffs. I really want to talk quickly, briefly about what just transpired in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, because last time we spoke, it was right before Game 7, and I made the prediction that the Miami Heat would win Game 7. So I got to give myself a ping there. Now, I did predict at the start of the series that the Celtics would win the series in 6 games, so I was wrong there. But I do give myself credit for making amends and being right about Game 7. And I'll make this quick because I want to spend most of my time today talking about the NBA Finals. Because obviously the Eastern Conference Finals at this point is old news. I just want to say this to all the Celtics fans. This is what happens when you play with your food. I think first play of Game 7, the guy who set the record for the most points scored ever in the Game 7, Jason Tatum, the best player on the Boston Celtics. Maybe on both sides of the ball. Debatably, because you still got Marcus Smart there, former Defensive Player of the Year. I understand. But your best player rolls his ankle first play of the basketball game. And that's something that's not talked about enough. Like, we don't talk enough about injuries and how that kind of plays a part in everything as well when it comes to not playing with your food in the postseason. You blew 3 games not playing to your potential. The Boston Celtics did. Just not handling business, not coming out with the right level of intensity, focus, hustle, just all of that. And then you come out, you win 3 straight. And in my opinion, show me that you are the better team. But then come out in Game 7 at home and your best player rolls his ankle. And I won't say that's the game because Miami did a lot of great things in that game. But that played a big part in the outcome of the basketball game, not having Jason Tatum 100% for that basketball game. And so the Miami Heat advanced, and I give the Miami Heat credit for getting to where they are. And I'll talk about, the fact that they just split this series so far with the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals. Miami is a very good team. They play hard. They got a lot of grit about them. But the Boston Celtics, I said that series was going to be about them and what they would do and how focused they will be. And I feel like ultimately they proved me right in that regard. They were focused for 3 games of the series and right on point when their backs were against the wall, and when their backs, weren't against the wall, more so, they didn't really show up until they were down 3-0. So Celtics fans, I hate to be that way. I know it don't sound great coming from a Laker fan. I understand, I get it. I'm not trolling any of that, but that was my biggest takeaway. Like, the Celtics should have ended this series in 6 games. This series should have gone 6 games in the favor of the Boston Celtics. If they came out with the same level of intensity that they did in game 4 for the entire series, they win this series in 6 games or less. But they didn't. They came out without the level of energy, focus, and tenacity that they needed to come out with from the start. It put them too far behind. And when they finally caught up and they were about to make history, it all came crumbling down with their best player getting hurt. Obviously, you don't wish injury on anybody. I wish Tatum would have stayed healthy for the entire game, because you never know what would have happened at that point. You just never know. But this is kind of what happens when you don't handle your business. As a Laker fan, I was nervous every time we would punt games away, win game 1, don't even try in game 2, win game 3 and 4, don't even try game 5, and then go out and win game 6. Every game I was nervous about Anthony Davis and LeBron James, because I understand when you got a team down, you need to put them out and give yourself that time to rest so that your players can heal up. You don't want to have your players on the court longer than you need to have them on the court. When you have an opportunity to finish a team, you finish them. When you have an opportunity, when you're playing up against a team that you're better than, you beat them, you defeat them, you get them out of the way. And unfortunately for the Celtics, they didn't. They waited to the last minute, and this was the result they ended up getting. And so shout out to the Heat for getting here. But I want to move on to the NBA Finals, because that's what this is really about today. The NBA Finals, again, is officially underway. And it's tied 1-1, going back to Miami. Very, very spicy, yo. Very, very interesting. I'll be the first to admit that, I picked the Denver Nuggets to win this series in 5 games. I'm not going to back off of that, because obviously I haven't been proven wrong yet. But what I will say is, it doesn't look likely that this series is only going to go 5 games, with Denver giving up one of those games at home. The game that just happened last night, Sunday. I'm recording on my day again. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen. It looks as though this series is at least gonna go 6 games, because there's no way in hell the Miami Heat are gonna blow both games in Miami. It's just not gonna happen. So as I dive into this series, man, got my notes here. So y'all gotta excuse me. I had to take notes on my phone today because I meant to bring my laptop to work. Let me explain. I meant to bring my laptop to work, was rushing out, forgot my laptop. So I had to take all my notes on my phone. So if you see me looking down, for the people that's watching on YouTube, if you see me looking down and not up at the screen, I'm looking down at my notes. Okay. That's the story. I'm sticking to it. Now y'all bear with me. Now, coming out in game 1, the Denver Nuggets came out. They won 104-93. I thought keys to that game for the Denver Nuggets is, for the most part, the Denver Nuggets did everything that they've been doing this entire postseason run, especially Jokic and Jamal Murray. Both of those guys went out there and put in work and got buckets at the end of the day. Jokic went out there and dropped 27 with 14 assists and 10 rebounds. Jamal Murray went out there and dropped 26 points, 10 assists with 6 rebounds. Michael Porter Jr. really didn't have a good offensive night, but rebounded the ball well. 13 rebounds on a night, 14 points. Bruce Brown chipped in another 10 points. Like, it was a great overall team win, I felt like. Yes, they let Miami back in the game kind of late, but I still walked away from that game as somebody who picked Denver to win, feeling pretty confident in Denver's chances as far as winning this series is concerned. Aaron Gordon, another guy that you got to bring up, was a mismatch nightmare for for Miami. Miami tried to come out and play small in game one, and it didn't work. For the first half or so, Aaron Gordon pretty much went out there and had his way. He had his way. Whatever he wanted, he got. I feel like there was a lot of extra attention put on Jokic in that game as well. You saw a lot of double teams. You saw a lot of traps, just trying to get the ball out of his hands. And that's where you get the 14 assists from, because he's finding Jamal Murray. He's finding KCP. He's finding Michael Porter Jr. He's finding Bruce Brown on these backdoor cuts, on these screens. He's finding guys wide open. There's one play that I pinpoint off the back of my hand where he catches the ball in the paint. They double team from the baseline. Joker spins around the opposite way and finds Bruce Brown wide open in the corner. Incredible play, incredible find. He's impressive. He's a great player. Like it's there's not much you can do with Jokic. No matter what, Jokic is gonna have a field day, right? And so you go over and you look at the Miami Heat and you say, well, what are the Miami Heat doing game one? And I think the biggest thing for Miami right now is they got to be able to shoot the ball, and they got to be able to shoot the ball efficiently. The story of this game, and I'll get to Jimmy Butler in a second because I do want to talk about him in a hot second, especially in regards to game one. The story of this game was Max Strus and Duncan Robinson combining for 1 of 15 from three. That was an issue. Those guys were getting wide, especially Max Strus, wide. I'm talking wide open looks at the basket and just not hitting shots. And, that's how it is sometimes. As a shooter, sometimes you got it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it don't matter as a shooter if you got a hand in your face or not. If you hot, you hot. And if you cold, you cold. Obviously a contest makes a difference, but a lot of times, like they say, it's a make or miss league, and they missed a lot of shots. Denver, they left them open too. It was a lot of a lot of broken coverages, just a lot of missed defensive assignments that the Miami Heat were not able to take advantage of. And they started to kind of take advantage of it towards the end of the game, which is how they started to get back in the game late in the fourth quarter. But Denver was already up by so much. It didn't take much to close out that basketball game. And as we know from previous series against the Los Angeles Lakers and just in general in this postseason and in the regular season for the Denver Nuggets, they know how to close basketball games. And so they figured out a way to close the game and really put Miami away. But like I said, I walked away from it thinking in my head, Denver, they have things that they can improve on the defensive side of the ball. But at the end of the day, I felt like, yes, Miami missed some shots, but they're going to need a little bit more from Jimmy Butler. At the end of the day, they're going to need him to step up as well. I talk a lot about this when it comes to star players on these teams. I talked a lot about it when it came to the Lakers. I brought it up a lot when it came to the Boston Celtics. I brought it up when it came to the New York Knicks, when it came to Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. A lot of times in the playoffs, especially on the road, it comes down to, do your stars show up to play? And 9 times out of 10, if your star does not show up in any facet of the game, for the most part, he was decent defensively, Jimmy Butler, but offensively, where they needed him most, especially when you notice guys like Duncan Robinson and Max Strus not hitting shots, probably your best shooters on your roster, those guys not hitting shots, they really need their stars to step up and have a big day. At the end of the day, Ben went out there and put in work. Ben went out there and had 26 and 13 rebounds with 5 assists. And Gabe Vincent went out there and gave you 19 points, shooting 50% from both the field and 3. But without Strus and without Duncan Robinson shooting the ball effectively, you desperately needed Jimmy Butler to step it up offensively at some point in time. And he just didn't have it going. It just didn't have it going. I don't know if it's the ankle injury that he suffered in the Knicks series. I don't know if, because we did see him tweak it again in the Celtics series. The later that series went as well. I don't know what it is with Jimmy, but this is not the same Jimmy Butler that we saw to start the playoffs, dropping 50-something odd points on the Bucks and 40-something odd points. And then, to start the series against the New York Knicks, he was really hot as well. This is not the Jimmy Butler that we've seen so far. This Jimmy Butler, I believe personally, especially the Jimmy Butler that we saw in game 1, and I'll get to the Jimmy Butler that we saw in game 2 in a moment. The Jimmy Butler that we saw in game 1 is not going to get it done against this Denver Nuggets team. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because at the end of the day, yes, you need everybody else to chip in and get buckets. But when it comes down to closing time, you need Jimmy Butler humming on all cylinders because Jokic is only going to miss but so many shots. And Jamal Murray, who did not have a great game too, and again, I'll get to that in a second, he is also another one of those guys who is going to close games. Like, he's not going to miss a lot of shots in the fourth quarter. Same thing for the most part with KCP too. They're not going to miss a lot of shots in the fourth quarter. And so sometimes in order to beat this team in the fourth quarter, you got to outscore them. You just simply got to outscore them. You got to just flat out get more buckets than them and hope that they go out there and they miss a couple shots. So Jimmy Butler, 13, 7, and 7, and ain't going to get it done. And honestly, I don't think what he did in game 2 will be enough to sustain the Miami Heat throughout this series as well, in all honesty. So again, those are my thought process kind of walking away, I would say, from game 1. I'm thinking in my head, okay, obviously the Heat will be more competitive. They will be more competitive. You never want to underestimate Eric Spoelstra and the adjustments that he can make on both sides of the basketball. You never want to underestimate, even though Jimmy doesn't look great, you never want to underestimate Jimmy Butler. You don't want to underestimate the Heat at all at this point, because the Heat are they've just been defying the odds all postseason, in my opinion. They've just been doing their thing all postseason long. So you don't want to count them out. But I said the Nuggets will win this series in 5 games, and nothing in game 1 told me that it wasn't going to end in 5 games. Now we roll over into game 2, where Eric Spoelstra had to remind everybody who he is. And like I said, don't count him out, because Eric Spoelstra is a monster. I got a whole list of adjustments that Eric Spoelstra made heading into game 2 to help them secure a win in game 2. Starting with the adjustment to move Caleb Martin out of the starting lineup and start Kevin Love. Remember, I was talking about Aaron Gordon pretty much dominating the paint and being a mismatch nightmare for the Miami Heat? Well, now you didn't put Kevin Love in there. Now, Kevin Love is no defensive stopper, but Kevin Love is a big body that can get in the way of Aaron Gordon. And that allowed you another adjustment that was made that also allowed you to make sure for a vast majority of the game that Jimmy Butler was guarding Jamal Murray. Jimmy Butler was in Jamal Murray's grill all game long, but that's not it. You threw traps at him. You threw blitzes at him, just trying to get the ball for the most part out of Jamal Murray's hands or force him into really tough shots. And so those are a couple of other adjustments that Eric Spoelstra made. He also made sure that the team improved their off-ball defense, right? And so anytime Jokic gets the ball, in most cases, he's looking to facilitate. Even Jamal Murray coming off screens and whatnot, most of the time he's looking to score, but a vast majority of the time, too, he's also looking to facilitate, get guys, see guys cutting to the basket, backdoor, just getting open. The Denver Nuggets, they thrive off of, movement without the ball. That's why Jokic gets all the assists that he does, because he catches the ball, whether he's at the top of the key, whether he's in the paint. You kind of got to watch him wherever he is, because he can shoot from anywhere on the floor. He commands and demands so much attention from your defense that it's so easy for guys to cut right behind their defenders for easy layups, come off screens, pick and pop, and dunk out to the outside for a 3-pointer, because guys are looking to double Jokic. And make sure Jokic gets the ball out of his hands. And I believe that's when the Denver Nuggets are at their absolute best. I believe that is when they're at their absolute best. When Jokic has the ball in his hands and he's making decisions with the basketball that aren't always scoring, looking to get guys involved. That's how you have these massive games from Michael Porter Jr. and from KCP, and oftentimes from Jamal Murray as well, because everybody's focused on how do we stop Jokic? How do we stop Jokic? But at the end of the day, Jokic, dang near not the head of the snake. It's really Jamal Murray. And so another thing that the Miami Heat made sure that they did in this game is they forced Jokic to be a scorer. Now, yes, Eric Spoelstra, he came out and he said, that's basically paraphrasing, because I don't remember the exact words, but basically paraphrasing, that's a casual take, is what he said to the reporter, who basically alluded to the fact that one of their game plans and strategies coming into game 2 was to force Jokic to be a scorer so that he cannot get everybody else involved. Jump those passing lanes, prevent those backdoor cuts, have great off-ball defense, stay disciplined, and force Jokic when he catches the ball, when he looks around, he don't see nobody open, you got to go get a bucket. He dismissed it. Oh, it takes more than that. It's more than that. It's not that simple. Well, obviously, Eric Spoelstra, it's not that simple. And again, who am I? Who am I? I'm just AJ2K, right? Who am I? I be damned if I know more X's and O's than the great Eric Spoelstra. I don't. And I ain't going to act like I do. But you can still watch that game and still take away from it that, hey, they made it tough on Jokic, but they didn't send as many double teams. Hey, they send a bunch of different bodies at Jokic, but they rarely blitzed Jokic. Hey, Jokic, anytime he has 40 plus points, he's now 0-3. Anytime he has less than 40 and he gets his teammates involved, they're 13-1. I mean, this is simple analysis. Simple analysis. The facts are the facts. When Jokic has an amazing offensive scoring night, it oftentimes hurts the Denver Nuggets. But when he doesn't, and he has anywhere between 23 to 30 points a game, but he's got those 15, 16 assists, 12, 13 assists, and he's got those, I don't know, somewhere around 14, 15 rebound games, that is when they're at their most potent form. Because not only is he able to get buckets whenever he wants to get buckets, but everybody else is able to get buckets whenever they really want to get buckets as well. So you got to stop the whole team. And that's where the issue comes in. And so they did a heck of a job of making sure we not letting nobody else beat us but Jokic. If Jokic beats us by himself, then so be it. The Phoenix Suns had the same type of mindset. I believe it was game 4 where Jokic went for 51. Or was it 52? Somewhere around in there, it was over 50. And they lost. Same mindset. Hey, look, at the end of the day, we got to allow Jokic, maybe not allow, still make it difficult, still contest every shot, obviously. But if he scores, hey, look, we throwing our hands up. What we not going to do is what the Lakers did. Double team off shooters. Bring our defensive player off of some of your shooters to help double team Jokic. Just all Jokic is going to do is stand up, come out of the post, and look for those guys for wide open threes. That's going to get the whole team going, and it's going to be a long night. So the Miami Heat make sure that they did that as well, on top of the fact that they really upped their defensive intensity and tenacity and hustle all together. And it really had the Denver Nuggets flustered in the fourth quarter, for real. For a team that, and I still think they're great closing, like I said before, and they will have better closing games. For a team that is so great at closing basketball games, they've been so great at staying poised under pressure. Game 2, we kind of seen them crack a little bit. The Heat were in the bonus pretty early in the fourth quarter. We saw Jokic get frustrated and hit Bam upside the head pretty much trying to reach for the basketball. I don't even know if he was trying to reach for the ball at that moment, but trying to reach and steal the ball, slap Bam upside the head. We saw just defensive laps after defensive laps. Duncan Robinson's run to start the fourth quarter, because remember, they went into the fourth quarter, the Heat that is, down 8. And Duncan Robinson went on like a solo, I want to say 9-0 run, or it might not have been solo because I believe someone hit a 3 in that during that run as well. But Gabe Vincent hit a 3 during that run as well. But Duncan Robinson came out there and he's really gotten a lot better at coming off of screens, not just looking to shoot the ball from 3, but attacking the basket. And I think that that's still in the way kind of throws teams off, because yes, it's something that he can do, but it's not something that you're constantly counting on him to do. You're not thinking of Duncan Robinson as the type of player to put pressure on the basket. You're not thinking of that. You're not envisioning that when you go and defend Duncan Robinson. You're thinking we got to get a hand up on his shot and run him off the line. And you're thinking, heck, if we could force him into the paint, That's probably our best shot. We can contest, maybe force him into a missed layup, a tough shot, get a block. That's what you're thinking. But Duncan Robinson coming off the screens, coming off curl actions, and getting to the paint with ease, and the different Nuggets not doing simple things like switching off of the screens. 2 plays in the fourth quarter back to back where Duncan Robinson came off a screen and just drove straight into the lane with no real contest because people didn't switch off their screens or switch off their assignments. Defensive lapses. You got Kyle Lowry getting fouled on 3-point shots by KCP. Just weird stuff going on that the Denver Nuggets do not do. And to me, I think a big part of it had to do with the defensive intensity and the physicality that the Miami Heat brought to the basketball game from start to finish. No matter what the score was, you knew the Heat, they was there. And they not going to lay down. They not going to roll over. I talked about this before, and I'll bring it up again. There's a couple ways the Heat can beat you, but the biggest way the Miami Heat can beat you is by beating you with sure effort, hustle, and physicality, tenacity. That's one of the biggest ways that they get you. They muck the game up. I'm not going to say they play dirty because it's not dirty basketball, but they play real physical. They muck the game up. They get in your grill. They get in your chest. You know, you setting the screen, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that because somebody going to try to run through it. They not looking to cut under or over. They trying to run through them. And they may take that foul here and there. You know what I'm saying? They may take that foul here and there just to let you know, though, that we're not just going to allow y'all to just get to these actions as easy as y'all accustomed to getting into these actions. At the end of the day, and, you know, again, we saw that physicality kind of take a toll a little bit, in my opinion, on Jokic. I even think, honestly, it felt like in moments Jokic got frustrated, and I won't say he deliberately didn't look for his teammates, but it's like he went into kill mode. He like, man, look, every time I touch it, I'm finna get a bucket on these dudes. Because you could just tell his mindset, almost like his attitude was just like, man, y'all can't stop me. I'm finna get a bucket. I don't care. Forget that. Y'all finna keep on bumping me off my spots. And every time I touch the ball, it's super physical. Okay, y'all think y'all gonna stop me? I'm gonna get a bucket. But that's exactly what they wanted him to do. Go ahead, get a bucket. Go ahead, get a 2. Go ahead, not get nobody else involved. What we gonna do on the opposite end is we gonna take Jamal Murray completely out of the ball game. Now, Jamal Murray did have 18 points to end the game. I think he had 10 assists as I go back through my notes. Jamal Murray did have a decent game. You didn't take him completely out of the game. Yep, 10 assists. You didn't take him completely out of the game, but you took him out of rhythm. A lot of the shots he's accustomed to getting, a lot of the shots he's accustomed to hitting, you took him out of. And one thing that the Denver Nuggets, I feel like they fall too in love with, and I'll get to quick adjustments I feel like they can make in a minute. One thing I think they fall too much in love with is the 1-5 screen. They run the 1-5 screen, the screen between Murray and Jokic all game long. They want to run that screen action. And Miami didn't do nothing but switch it up every single time. And it got to a point in the game where there were moments where you didn't even need to run that screen. You already had the matchup that you wanted. You already had a Caleb Martin on Murray, or you already had a Max Strus or a Gabe Vincent on Murray. If the objective is to get a bucket right here, Murray can take these dudes off the dribble and score, whether it be getting to the rack, whether it be, a step back, whatever the case may be. He can get to his spot on these guys and get a bucket. But in running that 1-5 screen, a lot of times in that motion, Jimmy Butler is guarding Jokic. And so the switch you're getting now is your best perimeter defender on Jamal Murray. So even when you didn't want to go at Jimmy Butler, you were running a screen that allowed Jimmy Butler to switch on Jamal Murray constantly. Made no sense to me whatsoever. I think they fall too much in love with that action. And I get it because, again, it works for them. And it killed my Lakers. It dominated the Lakers. So I do understand it. I do get it. But there comes a point in time where it's like, yo, we can't go. And I'm not saying it's the same play every time, But somewhere on the court, that's happening. Whether it's the start of the shot clock, whether it's the end of the shot clock, it's happening. Here come Jokic coming inside the screen. And it's like, yo, last possession of the basketball game. And I'll get to, coach's decision to not call a timeout in that moment. But what happened? What happened? Gabe Vincent is matched up with Jamal Murray coming down the court with 10 seconds left. And what do? They won the 1-5 screen yet again. And again, Jimmy Butler is on Jokic. So what do? They got the switch. The Heat got the switch that they wanted. They got the switch. Now Gabe Vincent is on Jokic. They should have gave the ball to Jokic to shoot the tray because Jokic could have just shot over the top. But nope. Jamal Murray wanted that shot, and I can't knock him because Jamal Murray, even though, he started slow, he had like 10 points going into the fourth quarter, then he hit a couple threes, got a layup in there, and was feeling good. He was heating up. So I'm not mad at him for wanting that shot in that moment. But Miami got the switch they wanted, which is Jimmy Butler on the guy that's going to take this shot. All because y'all wanted to continue to run the same 1-5 screen, yo. Like, at some point, again, and adjustments will be made. Mike Malone, great head coach. Adjustments will be made, and they'll be able to go to their actions and do what they need to do. Again, I'm picking Denver to win this series. But I do think they fall in love with that action a bit too much. And Eric Spoelstra is an amazing head coach. He's arguably the best head coach in basketball, if not the best head coach in basketball. I mean, it's just who it's who he is. And he's going to see that on film and make his adjustments. At the end of the day, he's going to make the proper adjustments to take away at least 2 or 3 of the motions or the actions that you want to get into if you're the Denver Nuggets. You got to understand that, and you got to be prepared for that. Now, I understand coming in the game, too, you don't really know what adjustments he's going to make, but once those adjustments are made during the game, you can kind of see, okay, this is what they're doing. This is what they are doing defensively. One thing I also want to point out is this. Bro, I don't know what kind of zone defense they be running, yo. I'm not even gonna lie. This is why I said I don't know all the X's and O's. Cause yo, they come out press like a 2-2-1 press. When the Nuggets are bringing the ball up, then they flip that to a 1-3-1 all in the same possession. And I can understand how that could be confusing for the Denver Nuggets, bro. Because you're in one zone at one point, then you flip it to another zone at another point, then the next possession down, they back playing man-to-man. It keeps them off balance. And again, with a great offensive team like the Denver Nuggets, those are the type of things that you have to do. You got to do things like that just to give them a bunch of different looks, make them think. Offensive players, they like to go, they like to score, and they like to move, they like to be free-flowing. It's all about rhythm a lot of times. When you're in a rhythm as an offensive player, you're really hard to stop. But the best way to take an offensive player out of rhythm or prevent them from getting in rhythm is giving them a ton of different looks. Just a bunch of different looks, a bunch of different bodies, a bunch of different defensive coverages. You don't know what you're going to get coming up and down the floor. And that is why, in part, I believe Mike Malone didn't want to call a timeout at the end of the basketball game. I disagree with that decision. And again, I'll get to that in a second. That's a big part of the reason why I believe he chose not to call a timeout. Because he didn't want to give Eric Spoelstra an opportunity to set that defense up the way he wanted it set up. He didn't want to deal with that. He like, nope, they're going to come out there in that zone, or they're going to come out there, they're going to take something away that I'm going to want to go to. And I'd rather just roll the dice, allow these guys to come down court, make a play and hit a shot. Give it to Murray. Again, I'm not mad at Murray. Get it to Murray. He hitting shots. He feeling it at this point. Go for it. Tie the game, right? But at the end of the day, man, you got to give credit to the Heat. You got to give credit to the Heat and their defense and how they're able to flip things up. Jimmy Butler switched things up. Jimmy Butler really did not have that great of a game to me yet again. He went out there. I think he had 21 points for the game. Let me pull up these numbers again really quick here. Where am I? I think he had, 21 points for the game. He really turned it up in the fourth quarter, hit a bunch of clutch shots in the fourth quarter. But like Jimmy, in my opinion, didn't win them this game. It was a lot from the others. It was a lot of Duncan Robinson. It was a lot of Gabe Vincent. It was a lot of Bam Adebayo. Is not an other. He's a star on their team, but it was a lot of him. Like it was a lot of guys that I would say you wouldn't necessarily expect to play big in this game, in the game 2 in the NBA Finals, but they did. They came out, they showed up, and they showed out. Obviously, Eric Spoelstra again making sure Max Strus was involved in the actions immediately. Started the game. The man went, I think it was 0 of 10 in game 1 from the trade, somewhere around in there from the field. Said we're gonna get you going early. Same thing with Duncan. As soon as Duncan came in the game, we run the actions for Duncan Robinson to get clean looks at the basketball, at the hoop. Clean looks. And this time they knocked him down. I want to quickly get into Mike Malone not calling a timeout at the end of game 2. This is what I will say, and I've said it time and time again. I understand in certain instances, if you're down 2, if the game is tied, maybe not call a timeout. I'm more so of the proponent, and again, I'm not a head coach, but I'm also have the thought process of if the game is tied, I'll let you go and try to win the game. But if I'm losing, I am calling a timeout. And I'm going to try to get the look that I want to get. At the end of the day, I don't care about Eric Spoelstra. I don't care about that Heat defense. I do not care. I have Jamal Murray. I have Jokic, who had 40 at the time. I have the best offense in the game. I'm going to call a timeout. I'm going to draw up a play to get the look that I want. You've been playing this team now. You kind of know what they may come out in. You got 2 timeouts, by the way, so you could burn 1 timeout. Come out there, set your offense up, see how they're set up defensively. Maybe even throw the ball in and see how they line up, call another timeout within the first couple seconds. You could try that. You could even try that. Give yourself an opportunity to come back to the huddle. Okay, this is what we're going to run. We see what they're going to do. It's not much. They probably going to switch. This is what we're going to do. The only problem in that, I would say, is the fact that, the Heat could have fouled them and put them at the free throw line, but the Nuggets have really good free throw shooters. And so at that point, yes, you go to the free throw line. I'm banking on you guys making 2 free throws at the end of the day, getting it down to 1, and then you got to foul. You got to kind of play the foul game at the end, but at least you get the ball back. You might get the ball back only down 2 now. So now you got a different opportunity, but I'm calling a timeout and I'm getting the kind of look that I want. I just am. I'm calling a timeout and I'm getting the kind of look that I want. Couple of adjustments I feel like the Denver Nuggets can make coming into game 3. And this is just my gut. Jamal Murray has to obviously be engaged and involved in this basketball game. I'm getting him involved early and often in this game. Remember how he came out in game 3 in LA where he had 30 in the first half? I'm not saying he has to do that, but if he can give him about 15 to 20 in the first half and be on pace for 30 points, that's what I'm looking to do with Jamal Murray. And the way I'm looking to do it is I'm not running as many 1-5 screen actions. I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the matchup I want by running more guard-to-guard screens. I'm going to run screens with KCP. I'm going to run screens with Michael Porter Jr., and I'm going to get them switches on y'all, and I'm going to get Max Strus, or I'm going to get Vincent, or I'm going to get Caleb Martin or one of these guys on me. I might even run a screen and roll a screen action with Aaron Gordon and get Kevin Love to switch. And I'm taking them boys all day long till they switch back in their zone. When they do switch back into their zone, Mike Malone needs to make sure there are shooters on the floor. Make sure there's at least 1 or 2 shooters on the floor at all times. Because the moment you take all your shooters off the floor, for the most part, they go into that zone. Whatever zone it is that they run, it can't even tell sometimes. But every zone can be broken up with elite shooting. So I'm making sure there's at least 2 shooters on the floor at all times. But my first adjustment is I heard some people saying maybe move Jamal Murray off the ball a little bit. Nope, I'm not doing that yet. If I'm Mike Malone, I'm saying, no, you good. We're going to keep the ball in your hands and we're going to attack these mismatches. That's what we're going to do. Because all of these dudes can't check you. Now, Jimmy Butler can give you a hard time. But they're going to have to show me that Max Strus and Caleb Vincent and, all of these other guys, Duncan Robinson, you got to show me that those guys can stop Jamal Murray. That's my mindset. You got to show me. I'm trying to get Jamal Murray involved early and often in the basketball game. That's just my process. More movement with Jokic, more movement off ball when Jokic has the ball in his hands. Now, this is easier said than done because the Miami Heat are doing a great job of denying those cuts to the basket, all those back doors and all of that stuff. And so I understand that's easier said than done, but you still have to cut, and you got to cut hard at the end of the day if you're the Denver Nuggets. That's your bread and butter. That is your bread and butter. You still got to do it, even if you got to do a little bit of flopping to get some of them fouls on them boys because they play physical. Kyle Lowry, he going to flop. Jimmy going to do a little bit of flopping. Y'all can do a little flopping too. Get some of them guys in foul trouble with as physical as they playing, But that's going to have to happen because too many times in the fourth quarter, I saw Jokic getting the ball in the paint or getting the ball at the elbow and guys just kind of standing around watching. And you got one guy moving without the basketball. That plays in the hands of the Miami Heat and is giving them the look that they want. Now we're going to force Jokic into a tough contested shot. He's probably going to make it, but if he doesn't, we're going to get the rebound. We're going to get out in transition and we're going to make shots. And so those are 3 adjustments that I would make sure that I make heading into this game game 3 for the Denver Nuggets, on top of just sheer energy and effort. Mike Malone talked about it, and I'll bring it up as well. I think that they could have came out with a different level of intensity, especially in the fourth quarter of that basketball game. They allowed Duncan Robinson to get whatever he wanted at the rack, and that just cannot continue. I'm sorry, it just can't. This is the NBA Finals. Got nothing but love and respect for Duncan Robinson as a basketball player. He's a great player, but no, you need that. That's got to be, if he killing you from the outside, he killing you from the outside because he's a great shooter. That is what he's elite at. But Duncan Robinson, a slasher, getting to the cup with ease, not really getting contested at the rim like that cannot happen. It cannot happen. The missed defensive assignments, it cannot happen. It just cannot happen. And so those are my takeaways. And that's what I think the Denver Nuggets can do going into game 3. That'll help them ultimately win game 3. Yes, you could take Jamal Murray off the ball a little bit, but I'm starting this game off, depending on the defensive coverage that the Miami Heat roll out to start the game. Man, I'm running them guard-to-guard screens all day long, and I'm getting the matchup that I want. Similar to what the Lakers did when they was trying to get Jamal Murray on LeBron. And LeBron would back him down, take him into the paint, and get an easy bucket. Jamal Murray can do something similar and get the matchups that he wants. You can get the matchup that you want. And if they decide that they don't want to switch and they want to trail, well, then somebody's cutting to the basket wide open. And it's probably Jokic. Or it's probably, whoever is setting the screen. It's cutting to the basket wide open or popping back out to the 3 for a wide open 3. So either Jamal Murray is able to get that bucket with his, his patented kind of step back off of those screens, or he getting somebody else open for a wide open look at the end of the day. And you got to get others involved too, obviously, in this game in order to win. And so those are my takeaways. I do want to quickly bring this up though. Tyler Hero is supposed to come back soon. They said originally it's supposed to be game 3. I'm looking at this really interesting, yo. So Tyler Hero is a guy in the regular season that scored 20 points a game on 44% shooting from the field. He's a guy who can obviously shoot the 3 effectively. He can get to his spots on the floor. He's a really good shot creator. He does some creating for others, but he's really a baller. He really a scorer for like that's his strong suit. Eric Spoelstra has to kind of manage this situation and tread lightly with this situation because you can't bring him back and disturb what's already been done. This team has been winning games without Tyler Hero. They've been winning games. They've been playing good on both sides of the basketball. They've been getting to their spots and getting shots, getting the looks that they want. Without Tyler Hero in the lineup, they're in the finals without him anywhere to be seen. And so you got to be careful with who you taking minutes away from. Now, Caleb Martin is a guy that you can consider because he hasn't been playing that well this series, but you got to think with how well he's played so far in his playoffs, most notably last series, he's going to kick it up at some point, right? And so you really got to think about, okay, whose minutes is Tyler Hero going to take? And how many of those minutes is he going to take? Now, it looks good if he comes in there and he takes somebody minutes and he go out there and he give you 20 and he shoot, 57, 60% from the field. Then it looks good. But he coming back ain't played a game of basketball in forever. And he coming back and playing in the NBA Finals, playing basketball at the highest of the highest levels. He might be a little rusty. And so, obviously, you got to bring him off the bench. But you got to manage the minutes properly so that it doesn't throw off the team chemistry. And on top of that, this is something that nobody has brought up yet. You also got to manage his mindset when you do this, because Tyler Hero's still a young player and still a young stud in this league. Again, the guy averaged 20 points a game. You don't average 20 points in the league by being no scrub. And so he's a guy that is known for getting buckets. He's a guy who's known for being that spark plug. He's a guy who is a pretty big piece and has been a pretty big piece for the Miami Heat since he's gotten to Miami. And so you got to manage that mindset too. He's still young, yo. So you gotta give him enough burn so he can feel good and get in the game, but you can't give him too much burn to the point where it takes away from the basketball team. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now: when the ball touches his hand, it's not gonna move as effectively and as fluently as it did when it touched Max Strus's hands, maybe Gabe Vincent's hands, or Duncan Robinson's hands, because of the type of player he is. Because of the type of player he is. That man like to get the ball and dribble a little bit. Like I said, he like to shot create. So his game is a little different. You got to work that in a certain way. So obviously, this is Eric Spoelstra we talking about. He gonna figure that out. It's not really a concern for me that much, but it is a thought. Like, all right, when you working back in the lineup, you better be ready for what comes with that, yo. Be ready, because again, if he come out hitting shots immediately, then you got nothing to worry about at that point, right? But if he cold, and the Nuggets, they like to go on these runs where they like to get out in transition and hit threes on you, drop bombs on you. It could get dicey. And then how soon do you pull them? How soon do you pull them? Imagine the Miami Heat winning a championship with Tyler Hero on the bench. How is he mentally going to take that? Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this, but I think it's something that needs to be said. I think it's something that definitely needs to be said, something that needs to be brought up. But ultimately, like I said, man, I'm still picking the Denver Nuggets to win this series. I look at this and say, do I expect Jamal Murray to not be able to properly adjust to the defensive matchup of Jimmy Butler? No. I expect him to play better. Do I expect Jokic to go out there and drop 40 and only have 4 assists for the rest of the series? No. Do I expect Michael Porter Jr., a guy that hasn't really gotten it going offensively, to continue to struggle? KCP to be so hit or miss? Do I expect that from these players going forward? No. Do I expect Mike Malone to continue to make adjustments and continue to improve his team on both sides of the ball? Yes. And I think that the Denver Nuggets are overall the better team, and they're not a team like the Boston Celtics, whereas they play with their food. They're not going to do that. They're not going to play with the Miami Heat. And that's no shade at the Heat like their food. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, in my mind, there is no doubt that the Denver Nuggets are the more talented team than the Miami Heat. I think the Denver Nuggets know that, and I think the Miami Heat know that as well. And so when you go into a series understanding that, do you know you have certain mismatches and you have certain strengths that the Miami Heat don't have? And you can take advantage of those strengths, take advantage of Miami Heat's weaknesses, and get them out of there relatively quick. And so I do expect the Denver Nuggets to play better in Miami. Again, I'm still going to roll with them in 5 because that's what I predicted. But I do expect Miami to win at least one of these home games. I'll be absolutely stunned if they win both and go up 3-1. That will be bananas. But I don't anticipate that happening. I think they'll split, whether it be game 3 or game 4. My bet would probably be Miami wins game 3, but then Denver wins game 4, and makes this a 6-game series. That's my thought process. But ultimately we'll see. We'll see. By the time you guys hear this, it'll be right before the game, which is great. And like I said, I'm not going to back off of my Nuggets in 5 prediction, even though it looks like it's going to at least be in 6 at this point. So I'm rolling with the Nuggets still. That's just how I feel. Again, I'm keeping my Nuggets in 5 pick because that's just my prediction, and I want to have that integrity. But just as an analyst, do I expect Miami to blow both games in Miami? No, I don't see that. When I picked the Denver Nuggets in 5, it was with the assumption that they was not going to lose a home game. They lost a home game and threw everything off. So if I could change my pick, it will be Nuggets in 6, but I will not. I will keep it at Nuggets in 5. But those are my thoughts about these finals, man. We'll see how things continue to progress with that. I want to move on to close today's episode. I want to talk a little football. I want to talk a little football, and I want to talk about this player in specific, because not enough people are talking about it, in my opinion. Maybe everybody's caught up in the NBA Finals, and I understand all that. But like, yo, this player right here, he has the type of talent and skill set that can flip the NFL on its head depending on where he goes. And for people who don't know who I'm talking about DeAndre Hopkins. For the people that are listening over the radio, you don't see what's on the screen. Obviously, the people that's watching on YouTube can see DHop is already up on the screen with the caption, DHop. We need to talk about this more, bro, because DHop can really shake the league up. DHop can really shake the league up. And in all honesty, depending on where DHop goes, they will probably be the favorite to at least be in the Super Bowl. So when you look at the teams that DHop has been rumored to be, talking to or interested in, you got the Buffalo Bills, you got the Kansas City Chiefs, you got the New England Patriots, who just kind of popped up out of nowhere. You got the Philadelphia Eagles, only because, he said he wouldn't mind playing with Jalen Hurts. You got Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, and you got the Cleveland Browns. Now, I got to be real. I got to be honest. All right? Take the fan hat off. Would I love to see DHop in green and white in the midnight green with the Philadelphia Eagles? Of course. It would ruin the league. It would be like KD on the Golden State Warriors. It's over for the NFL. Do I believe that will happen? No. I just think that the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that is loaded already at the position. I know Quez Watkins had a bit of a down year, but he's kind of almost like the gadget guy in the offense, a guy that could really stretch the defense out like no other, one of the fastest guys in the NFL. And so I don't think you replace him with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or bring in a guy like DHop and move Devontae Smith into that spot. I don't see that happening. So just by the fact that they have enough already, I'd take the Eagles out of the running for DeAndre Hopkins. Only one football. Jalen Hurts is going to run with it some. Swift is going to run with it some. Rashad Penny's going to run with it some. Devontae Smith is going to catch passes. A.J. Brown's going to catch passes. Goddard's going to catch passes. And you're going to get stretched deep with Quez Watkins as well. So I don't see how D-Hop could fit ultimately with that football team. When I look at a team like the Cleveland Browns, though, I do see a solid fit there. They already got a really solid running game. Offensive line is solid. Deshaun Watson had a bit of a rough year this past year where he didn't look like himself, but I think a lot of that had to do with a lot of rust. It's been a while since he played the sport, and to come back and to be thrown in the fire like that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot to try to, maneuver past and to try to get over. So I think a lot of that was just rust on behalf of Deshaun Watson. But it's a guy that you're familiar with. You played with Deshaun Watson before. You know how he throws the ball. He knows where you like to catch the ball. He knows, your catch radius like no other because, again, he played with you. He knows what plays work best with you. So there's some familiarity. I can't even say the word. Forget it. I ain't even gonna try to say the word. Y'all know what I'm trying to say though. That word messed me up. That'll be a meme later. But anyway, you're familiar with Deshaun Watson. So I can see the move being there. The Ravens in that offense with Lamar Jackson and Odell Beckham Jr. and with Rashard Bateman and with Andrews. Oh my goodness. Now, if you want to just talk about fun, like entertainment wise, I would love to see DeAndre Hopkins with the Baltimore Ravens, because I think that offense would just take another step that will be leaps and bounds over most teams, if not all teams in the NFL, maybe, if I'm being honest. Like, if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, which he should be able to do with a weapon like DeAndre Hopkins, because he's throwing the ball a lot more than running with it, and he should be able to get the ball out a lot quicker because he took some hits in the pocket. Ultimately, the hit that took him out was the hit he took in the pocket this past season. With DeAndre Hopkins, it opens the field up so much. not only for him, but for everybody. And then the running lanes that Lamar Jackson would have if he did try to take off and run. That DK uh um what is, oh my goodness, what is it? Blanking on the guy's name, running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, the lanes that he will have to run through will be insane. And so that will be crazy on top of an already pretty solid defense. You know, DHop did come out and say that he wanted to play for a solid defensive team. So the Ravens have that on lock as well. That's something I'm definitely looking at if I'm DeAndre Hopkins. That's a Super Bowl contender right now, right there. The New England Patriots, I don't understand. I didn't go waste a lot of time on that. I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't. You want to play with a great quarterback? I think that Mac Jones has a lot of potential, but if I'm a guy like DHop, a vet like him, I'm not looking to go play with Mac Jones at this point in my career. I'm looking to play with an elite quarterback, which is why he was never mentioned. I think if the Patriots, if he goes there, it's about the money, and I don't think DHop is really that concerned about money at this point. So I would personally rule them out. Then you got the Bills and the Chiefs, man, and if you go to the Chiefs will be right back in the Super Bowl, and it will be Super Bowl favorites. This team that's the one team outside of probably Dallas that I don't want to see him playing on. Like, don't go to Kansas City, yo. Like, if he goes to the Browns or he goes to the Ravens or even the Bills, I'm still looking at Kansas City as a team that could potentially knock them off because they have the great equalizer, which is Patrick Mahomes. But if you go to the team with the great equalizer already, it's going to be tough for any team to beat them because you got to worry about the rushing attack. You got to worry about even Patrick Mahomes taking off and running from time to time. You obviously got to worry about Travis Kelce, who's maybe the greatest tight end of all time and an amazing red zone threat. And then you got to worry about DeAndre Hopkins. That's not something that a defense wants to deal with. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's not something that a defense wants to deal with. That's something I don't want to see, but I wouldn't be mad at him for going there because that might be his best option. If you really want to go win the Super Bowl, who would you rather go play with than Patrick Mahomes? The guy who's guaranteed to get you to an AFC Championship game if healthy. So if I'm him, I'm heavily considering that option. And then obviously the Buffalo Bills, I think he will fit extremely well in that system as well. You know, you pair him alongside of Stephon Diggs, and that could be dangerous. The Buffalo Bills also have a great defense. And I know they got guys actively recruiting. That boy Von Miller be recruiting like crazy. Personally, if I am DeAndre Hopkins, I want to go to the Baltimore Ravens, not only for entertainment purposes, but to have the opportunity to play with a threat like Lamar Jackson, to play alongside Odell Beckham Jr., Bateman, and Andrews with that defense. That's the team I personally would want to play for. New offensive system where Lamar is throwing the ball a lot more than running. That's the team I want to play for. The smartest move to make is probably going to Kansas City. If I'm being honest. The move I would want to make is Baltimore. The smartest move to make is most likely Kansas City, if I'm being honest. If I'm being real. You're going to get a bunch of targets. You're going to compete for a Super Bowl every single year that you're there. You're going to be easily the best team in the conference. Well, not easily, but you're going to be probably the best team in the conference. Even if it's by a small margin, you'll be the best team in the conference already. This team just won the Super Bowl. They got Andy Reid. I mean, what else can you say? And I think that defense is going to be even better because they had rookies playing in the Super Bowl that will only get better. And so if I'm DHop, that is what I'm doing, man. That's where I'm headed. That's all I have for y'all today on today's episode of Full Timeout. Again, make sure y'all follow the boy AJ2K on all socials. A as in Apple, J as in Juice, A as in Alphabet, E as in Eat, the number 2, the letter K. Until next time, your boy is signing off. I will catch you all next time on the next episode of Full Timeout.